We bought this old rotting fifth wheel for $5,000 and we spent the last few weeks renovating this into a beautiful home on wheels to travel across America. But this week, it's time for a big upgrade. We're going to make this old girl fully off-grid with the help of Renogy. Good morning, and welcome to our fifth wheel.
For those of you who are new here, we're Ryan and Brittany, and for the past 6 years, we've been living fully off-grid, sailing the world on our Beneteau Oceanus 46.
Yeah, it's been epic.
And when I say off-grid, I mean fully off-grid, as in we have not plugged into shore power since we left the Med, I think about 3 years ago, after we crossed the Atlantic.
So if you guys are curious about that video, I'm going to put a link in the description because we did a full Renogy off-grid system on that boat. Step-by-step guide, and we did things a little differently on there, so it's pretty epic. Go check that one out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out.
But for now, let's get stuck straight into this one. And first off, I'm going to take you through all the solar panels, the batteries, basically just all the gear that we used to turn this RV into the ultimate off-grid home on wheels. Okay, so Renogy sent us the Navigator kit. This kit includes everything, but we took it a step further. We added an extra 200 amp hour lithium battery and 2 extra 200 watt solar panels. We also added a few extra upgrades, which we'll explain throughout this video. So here's the layout of our 2008 Montana 3000 RK fifth wheel. On the roof, we're going to install 5 200 watt solar panels. 2 will be connected in parallel to a 400 amp MPPT charge controller, and 3 connected in parallel to a 60 amp MPPT charge controller. This setup will help maintain output even if some panels are shaded. The garage is under our bedroom. This will house our 2 MPPT charge controllers, a combiner box to act as our central hub, and a 3000 watt inverter to convert 12 volt battery power into 110 volt for the RV. In the front compartment, we'll install 3 200 amp hour lithium core series batteries. Behind the switchboard area, we'll place our auto transfer switch and lithium converter, which I'll explain later. Finally, we're going to install a DC to DC charger in this space with the batteries. I'm going to break all this down for you in the simplest way possible, step by step, so you'll know exactly what you need to build your own off-grid system and how to set it up successfully. Here's how we're going to pair up our solar panels on the roof. The voltage at maximum power, VMP, in our solar panels is 19.2 volts. So this is the voltage we'll work with for our cable sizes until we reach the MPPT charge controllers. Installing these panels is straightforward because everything is provided to secure them to the roof. There's one important step when screwing these down to the roof. You'll need to seal the screws to prevent leaks. We'll be using lap sealant for this, and I've included a link in the description below. Now, Renogy supply everything we need, including this through roof entry mount for the cables, which will run the cables through these 2 holes here and seal it all up so we get no water leaking from the roof into the RV. They also supply us with this 12 gauge cable. 10 feet, which is good to use, but because I've added 2 extra panels, I need a bit thicker cable, and I've got some long runs coming down here. So I've had to upgrade the cable because I'm gonna be running this stuff at a maximum about 25 feet from the batteries to the solar panels, and it's just not gonna cope. So I've got some 10 gauge cable here. I'm gonna run down into the RV. Now I can do this to the maximum of about 15 feet with the 2 panels and about 6 feet with the 3 panels. From there, I'm gonna put them into a junction box, which I'm gonna put all in the cabinet behind me, and I'm gonna run them further with some 8 gauge cable, which is quite thick. All right, so let's get all this set up, through the roof, sealed up, and I'll come back to you guys when I'm inside the cabinet here, and we'll wire up our junction box to finish off the run of our 8 gauge cable. So as I mentioned earlier, we're installing our solar panels in parallel. This means connecting all the positive cables together and all the negative cables together. Doing this keeps the voltage the same but increases the amps. The main advantage is better performance when some panels are shaded, but it does require thicker cables to handle the higher current. If we connected the panels in series, we'd link the positive of one panel to the negative of the next. This setup allows for thinner cables over longer distances, and I could have used the cables supplied, and although it's more convenient to do it this way, it's less effective when shading does occur. Alright, so we've got for our 400 watts of solar panels, we've got our 40 amp MPPT controller. And for our 600 watts, we've got our 60 amp. So if we get shade on one section of the panels, it won't kind of limit, all the amount of power we get. So the other one will still be running at full capacity. Vice versa, if we get shade on the 400 watts of solar, then the 600 watts of solar will still be working at full capacity. So that's why we split them up. Because I run such thick cables now, the 40 amp MPPT controller won't fit the 4 gauge cable. So I've got these reducers. Now from the MPPT controllers to the distribution box, we're working on 12 volts now. So we're not working on the 19 volts that we're working on with the solar panels now. This now will regulate it down to 12 volts. So basically now with the 60 amp MPPT controller, with the 600 watts of solar, that's going to be producing now about 50 amps at 12 volts to the batteries. With the 40 amp MPPT controller with the 400 watts of solar, we're going to be working on about 33 amps at 12 volt to the batteries. So I've calculated with the length I'm running, which is about 5 feet, we can run the easily run these 4 gauge cables for the 600 watt panels across to the batteries or the distribution box, and then we can run 8 gauge cables, which is what Renogy supplied, and we'll run them to the distribution block as well, or box. And then from there, the distribution box, the batteries is going to be running 4-aught cables to the batteries. So pretty thick. When choosing your cable sizes, it's important to account for the current and the length of the run to avoid voltage drop. There are online calculators available to help you determine the right size for your setup. So this is Renogy's combiner box. I've been calling it a distribution box, but this thing's epic. This is going to be not really the brains, but kind of the central hub of the system here. What's really good about this box is that these are marine battery fuses. So whenever I connect cables to batteries, I use marine battery fuse terminals. Marine, MRBF, MFBM. I gotta look this up. I should know better. No, I'm pretty sure it's MRBF, Marine Rated Battery Fuse. That's what these are. Yeah, Marine Rated Battery Fuse. So you get the MRBF terminals for the battery, so the Marine Rated Battery Fuse terminals that actually suit these fuses, so you connect them straight to the batteries, which is pretty awesome. So what we're going to do in this case here is that we're going to use this combiner box here to put all our fuses on. So Renogy supplied us with the solar panel for the solar panel fuses for those MC4 connectors up top, and it's just a 20 amp fuse or a 30 amp fuse or whatever fuse you get, and you put it straight in line with the solar panels. So there's a fuse up there for them. There's going to be a fuse for the MPPT controllers into this combiner box, as well as the inverter. We'll put a fuse on there, and for the batteries we'll put a fuse on there, and everything is going to run straight to this combiner box. So like the MRBF terminals for batteries, the combiner box is designed to use these MRBF fuses, but I must have misplaced some bolts because during installation only 2 were long enough, so I had to get more. Alright, today we're going to install the Renogy 3000 watt inverter. This one's super simple to install on the DC side. It's literally just going to be a positive cable, a negative cable, connecting to the combiner box. We've got a small earth cable down there that we just connect down to the earth for the obviously for safety on the box there itself. And then we've got an on-off switch that we've got to run a thin little cable, which is a Cat 5 cable inside the RV, so we can turn it on and off from inside the RV. Now Renogy supplies 5 feet of 4-aught cable in the Navigator kit, but it's still important to minimize this length of run as much as possible to reduce resistance. This is especially crucial because the 3000 watt inverter draws a significant amount of current. Important to connect this grounding cable. It's a safety feature that provides a safe path for the stray electrical current in case of any fault. Alright, so the other day we had to move the RV from the RV park to our friend's place here in Vancouver, and I did the solar panels and the solar charge controllers at the RV park. You can see I ran the cables there, went through that the other day. Today I've just installed the inverter only on the DC side. We've still got to do all the AC stuff, but I can go through that at the very end of the video because it's a little bit more complicated than just running cables like what I'm doing now on the DC side. Solar panels, charge controllers, inverter. Let's go to the batteries. This is the fun part. So when you're doing this, it's very important that when you're running your batteries in parallel from positive, 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 the cables that are in between the batteries need to be the exact same size. Even better, if I had another combiner box, I'd run each battery straight from the combiner box. So I'd do battery 1 combiner box, battery 2 combiner box, battery 3 combiner box. That way I could probably get away with a 0 gauge cable or a 1 gauge cable straight to combiner box for each battery. And then from that combiner box to the other combiner box or wherever they need to go, you would definitely run a 4-aught cable. Now, in Renogy's case, you don't even need to do that because the combiner box, they bolt together. So I could just run these straight to a combiner box individually, but I'm doing it this way. I've got enough cable to do it. Renogy did supply us the battery cables for this. So we got these cables here, which I could use, but going from the third battery, they're probably a little bit too thin. Now, keep in mind with the system that we actually got the all-in-one system, which is 2 batteries, but we added an extra battery. Just like with the solar panels, we added an extra 2 solar panels. So if I didn't have this extra battery, these cables would be perfect to join the batteries together. So you don't have to do what I'm doing right now, but if you're going to change the solution that Renogy's offered, then you definitely want to upgrade your cable. So we're going to use the 4-aught cable between these batteries and then run them straight to combiner box. We're going to keep the runs as short as possible. Between the batteries, we're only going to have about 1 foot. So on the first battery, where we've got the negative cable, we'll go straight to combiner box. That's going to be 2 feet long. And from the positive to the combiner box, which is on the other side of that wall, that's going to be 2 feet long. I'm going to cut all these cables now, exactly the same size, and get them ready to connect the batteries. I'm installing the batteries on a foam mat to absorb vibrations while driving, and to keep them secure, I'm going to strap these down tightly so they won't shift during our travels. These are those MRBF fuse terminals I mentioned earlier. Initially, I planned to connect the batteries in parallel with a single fuse on the combiner box, but I decided to fuse each battery separately while keeping them in parallel. We're going to connect this shunt between the negative cables from the batteries to the combiner box, and then we've got a little plug here for the actual screen that's inside the RV. We'll mount that inside the RV. This plugs into the shunt, and then the shunt also needs power. So we've got a thin little red cable that plugs straight into the shunt here, and it'll go into the positive side of our combiner box. All right, I made a mistake. The tiny 12-aught cable needs to be connected to the battery side of the isolation switch and not the combiner box, which I changed as soon as I realized my mistake. Here's the final battery layout, featuring individual fuses, the shunt, a 500 amp isolation switchboard online, and all the configured wire lengths and sizes. All parts are linked in the video description. This is probably the most critical and complex part of the entire system, so pay close attention. Getting this right is the key to keeping your RV safe and running smoothly, because we're about to tap into the main switchboard with what's called an automatic transfer switch. This is for the AC, this is for the 12 volt. This is just a vacuum cleaner, which is actually pretty cool. But we're going to take all this out right now and see what's behind it, because this is where I'm going to mount the automatic transfer switch and or this contactor here, which is the part we've been waiting on. So I've had to put this on pause for a few days while we get that. Now I'm going to wire all this up. Essentially what we're doing in this situation just here with the AC side of the inverter is we're going to make it so that when we plug into shore power, it turns the inverter off automatically. And then when we unplug from shore power, the inverter will turn back on automatically. which is kind of cool. So it's kind of like having a manual switch, but it does it all automatically for us. I'm gonna explain exactly what I do here and all the parts needed, because you're gonna want to do the exact same thing with your installation.
The first thing you'll need to do is find the main cable that comes from your 30 or 50 amp plug in your RV. In my case, I have a 50 amp cable, which is 4 wires, 2 hots, a neutral and ground. In a minute, I'll need to cut this. Next, you'll need an automatic transfer switch to safely manage the grounding. Without it, you risk having 2 grounding points active simultaneously, like the inverter ground and the shore power ground, which can be dangerous. This switch ensures the inverter disconnects when you connect the shore power. I chose this one for its simplicity. It's easy to wire with clear instructions. Shore power connects the input, the inverter to the inverter input, and the switchboard to the output. It's that straightforward, and I've linked it in the description below. Next, you'll need to run your cable from the inverter. I used an 8 gauge cable. You'll have a hot, neutral and ground on the inverter's AC side. This cable will run straight back to your auto transfer switch and connect into the inverter input of your transfer switch. If your RV uses a 30 amp plug, it's simple. Just cut the main power cable behind your switchboard, connect the shore power side to the input of your transfer switch and the switchboard side to the output. That's it. However, if you have a 50 amp shore power like I do, this is where you'll need to pay close attention. This bus bar here is going to be connected straight to shore power, and the one behind it is the one that's going to be running off the inverter or the automatic transfer switch here. So this red cable that I've cut, I got a wire in, a contactor here, and then I got a bridge on the side. If you don't have a 240 volt appliance like a washer dryer or any other 240 volt system in your RV, your 50 amp service is likely splitting 110 volt power into 2 circuits on your switchboard, each connected to a separate bus bar, commonly a black wire and a red wire. In this case, you'll need a contactor, and I'll link the one I'm using in the description below. A contactor works in conjunction with the transfer switch. When you plug into shore power and current flows through the transfer switch, the switch turns off the inverter. If wired correctly, it will also activate the contactor, allowing power to flow safely through it. Without a contactor, you risk a serious issue if the RV park's wiring has a fault. For example, if the black circuit loses power, but the red circuit still has power. In this situation, the transfer switch wouldn't disconnect the inverter, leading to a dangerous scenario where the inverter supplies power on one side and the shore power supplies power on the other side. This could damage your inverter and appliances. By wiring the contactor through the black circuit, you ensure that power is only allowed through the red circuit if the black circuit is active. This setup protects your inverter and appliances from potential faults in the RV park's electrical system. When plugged into shore power, the converter powers your RV's 12 volt systems while also charging your batteries. Since I have lithium batteries now, I need to replace my current converter with one designed for lithium charging. This is a simple swap using the existing cables unless you're upgrading to a higher amperage converter. In that case, you'll need to calculate the correct cable size using an online wiring calculator. I wasn't satisfied with the converter I originally purchased, so I've linked a better option for you in the description below.
So with the transfer switch installed and the contactor installed, we've now separated a couple of circuits. We separated the air conditioning, the heating, the electric hot water, and this little power point here, because this power point here is for the converter. So these will only turn on when they're plugged into shore power, because we can't have the converter and the inverter on at the same time. Because basically what will happen is the inverter will be trying to convert 12 volt power from the batteries to 120 volt power, and this will be trying to convert 120 volt power to 12 volt power. So they'll kind of just run continuously against each other and flatten our batteries. So by having that one power point right there on the circuit, the separate circuit with the red cable for shore power, this will only turn on during when we're plugged into shore power. The reason we went through with getting this DC to DC charger is because it is only 20 amps. We only wanted to be able to draw 10 amps from our alternator right now. Now this is just a base model DC to DC charger. Renogy have some really good ones. On the boat, we've got the DC to DC MPPT charge controller. So we can connect solar power panels to it as well, and I can actually fully adjust the settings from the app on my phone. On this one here, the way I adjust the settings is just by connecting the current limiting wire to a 12-volt power supply, which is why I've done it to the input of the 12-volt here, and I've joined it up with the ignition wire too. So then basically that just turns on the DC to DC charger whenever we connect the trailer to the car and turn the car on. We got a 7-pin plug right here, and it actually goes pretty much from the truck up into this little junction box, and here you can see the ground cable. Switch around this side over here, we've got a 12-volt cable. You can tell because these are the two thickest ones, and on a little wiring diagram that's what it tells us. So this main one here will run straight through into the RV, up through here. It comes up around through down into here, and basically what I've done is I've already pulled it out here. This is our positive line, so this is what we're going to connect our DC to DC charger to. This goes to the original little breaker here that goes through, or will go through into our combiner box, which is on the other side of this wall. So really it's a simple installation, this one. I just got to connect the ground and the positive to the DC to DC charger, the positive and the negative straight to the combiner box. In the future, what I probably will do is upgrade to a bigger DC to DC charger. And the reason I haven't done it now is because to do that I need to run thicker cables from the alternator through the truck. I got to put them on their own Anderson plug and then run it straight down here into the fifth wheel, which is not a big deal, but it's just you know, we got a kilowatt of solar panel, so I don't really feel we need it. I just want to limit the charge because I don't want the batteries to burn out any cables, or I don't think it'll burn out the alternator because I think we've got a smart alternator on the truck, so the alternator will automatically dial itself down if it gets too hot. But the cable is it's just going to burn out, you know. Could damage the alternator, could, you know, start a fire, could do some damage. So by limiting it, we're basically just protecting the system, and that's all I'm doing here. So but realistically I could probably throw in a 50-60 amp charge DC to DC charger in here if I ran thicker cables straight from the alternator, and then I would safely charge the batteries. But like I said, with the amount of solar panels we have, I don't think it's really necessary. All right, so I'm just gonna finish this off. I'll mount it up in the top corner up here, and we'll be good to go. Sorry, I haven't quite finished yet. I've got to just adjust these here and set them to lithium mode. So I'm going to get the manual now, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 switches, and we'll throw them up and down depending on what needs to be done to put into lithium mode. So we'll do that too, and then we're done. Another job ticked off the list.
We're almost done now, but it's important to note that without a DC to DC charger, lithium batteries can overdraw from your alternator. This can cause the thin cables in your 7-pin plug to overheat, especially on long trips. So to prevent this, I highly recommend installing a DC to DC charger, even a small one like this, for your added safety. Finally, all we need to do now is connect our old existing 12-volt power circuits to our new lithium batteries through the combiner box.
So we're back at the front here where the batteries are, where we put the lithium batteries in. What we're going to do first is disconnect this battery completely. We're going to take it off the grounding plate here. We're going to take the positive off here. We're going to connect up our combiner box, the positive, to the rest of the RV here. We're going to ground the combiner box with this cable here. So essentially this is just going to be our new grounding point for everything. And then we're going to come through here and connect our positive negative straight to the batteries. Once we've done that, we'll run back inside to the garage and flick it on, and let's see if this all works. It's either going to blow up or we're going to have a completely self-sufficient fifth wheel running on 1,000 watts of solar and 600 amp hours of batteries.
found this video helpful, please be sure to check out the links in the description. They're affiliate links, which means if you make a purchase, it helps support our channel at no extra cost to you. We're proud to live off-grid full-time as nomads, and while this video isn't sponsored, some of the equipment was kindly provided by Renogy. We've used their products for years and we love that they support creators like us who are passionate about sustainable living. If you enjoyed this video and want to follow along with our off-grid adventures, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up and leave us a comment below. Your support helps us keep creating content for this amazing community. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys in the next video.